Welcome to episode 13 of Auction What, the show where we deep dive into some properties coming up for sale at forthcoming auctions. As usual, I'm joined by auction supremos Jay Howard.
Thank you.
And Omer Mehmet.
Thanks for having me.
So, what are we going to look at today? We're going to look at a skate park in Kent, which is let out for 50 years. That might be an interesting one. We're looking at a property in Plaistow, which is tenancy unknown. We'll find out more what's in store there. And we'll be looking at some commercial to residential action on the Old Kent Road in London. So if you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notified as soon as we upload new videos. Smash that like button as well and tell us what you think. Do you disagree or agree with what we're saying? Let us know in the comments below. So on to deal number one then. We're looking at a skate park in Kent. Omer, you spotted this one. What's all this one about?
Excellent, yeah. So this is a bit of an unusual one. Clive Empson is the auctioneer. It's a bit of a favourite of mine if you can find some hidden gems in this auction. It's described as a cyclo park. It's in Gravesend in Kent. Guide price is 480,000 plus, and we're looking at 38 acres, currently let to Kent County Council on a 50-year lease from 2010. So plenty of time left on the lease. What's that? 39 years remaining. Income at the moment being generated is just over £30,000 per annum, which equates to, at the guide price, 6.5% yield. So bit of an unusual one, but could be of a kind of pension fund might want to acquire this type of thing perhaps, or a sort of long-term investment. Has it got the ability to do massive uplift in the value straight away? No, it's probably more of a set and forget. If you look through the images, you can see what you're getting. It's a huge amount of land. Cycle park, never been there. Not sure if anyone has, but it looks fun, doesn't it? You might want to send your kids there, and
I mean, it might be attractive. You may have to get your skates on to pick up this particular auction lot.
Absolutely.
But let's have a look at the positives then. I mean, it's let for 50 years and there's no break clause on there.
Yeah.
So you've got your tenant in there for 30 grand a year. That's not bad income. But of course, what's the alternative use if Kent Council no longer want it?
Well, I mean, what are the chances that Kent Council are going to give up amenity, like public amenity space like this? I mean, this is the kind of stuff that they protect tooth and nail. So you'd imagine that in 50 years, or in 30 odd years time, the conversation will be, what do we do with this space now? And the chances are they'll probably want to renegotiate terms. And the beauty of something like this actually is it's classified as commercial property.
Yes.
Which means, you've got your SAS boys and girls, your SIPS boys and girls who else is going to get a covenant from a local authority for that length of time without a break clause, and that is, forgive me, that is probably the closest to net you're ever going to get on a yield, right? That 30,600, what's it going to cost you? £600 a year? Well, what? So, it looks really very good.
Yeah, it's a huge space, isn't it? You've got, if you read the description, 2.9 kilometres of road bike area, 330 metres for BMX, and a 6 kilometre track for mountain biking. So it must attract a huge amount of people that are coming to venture in these areas. Also, if you look at the map for future redevelopment, I mean, there's lots of residential houses. I don't know if this is that would be something that you could consider.
Nasty developer, you. I mean, lovely public amenity, and you're thinking about putting houses on it.
I'm not cheap commercial funding on this property. The banks are going to love it. They'll lend on this for a good 3% interest. Let's get a bargain from them.
I tell you what, the one area that I think value can be added is along the perimeter that fronts and abuts the motorway. That has got to be prime time advertising. Hoardings.
Didn't think of that.
I mean, it may be not covering the whole thing, but if you imagine, like, you could, I'll probably start off by saying, let's put noise cancelling boardings up so that people can enjoy the separate space, and then
Yeah.
on one side you put adverts and on the other side you don't.
Yeah.
And on that part of the motorway with that kind of traffic, I think that could be quite promising.
Yeah.
So £30,000 for 50 years. I mean, I assume we don't know what the break clause is and all of that, but assuming there isn't any of that, that's a very, very safe let for a long period of time. You don't really have to think about alternative uses at all.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what do you think it's going to go for? I mean, how much? At the end of the day, Kent Council is a good covenant. So what will people pay for? What yield will people be looking to accept?
I think if you go along Omer's thought of getting some kind of pension fund, and even lesser so across to my side with the SAS and SIP investors, I think people in that side of things would buy it on a 5% yield.
Yeah.
Comfortably. I think they'd be quite happy with that. And I think they'd have the problem with things like this is the closer it gets to the end of that lease, the less valuable the site is. But it doesn't change the value of the income that's coming in. But it's all about having the conversations and things like that towards the end as to what it will be. But I think 5% yield, I think someone will buy up to 5%.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. I think that's...
Quite frankly, if I bought this and I was worried what was happening towards the end of the lease, I'd be very happy that I'm alive at that time. So.
Yeah. It'll be a
it's
problem
a
for the
long
kids,
time,
kids,
isn't it?
kids, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's it going to go for then? 480k plus, it says. I mean...
I think the way the auction space is at the moment, this will be particularly attractive, as you said, to a SAS SIP investor. Residential and commercial property is becoming seen by the pension funds as more of a longer term safe bet investment, and so I think this will go close to 600,000.
600,000. Jay?
Yeah, I'm not too far off that. I think it's easily got £100,000 above its guide price in it, and I don't think it will struggle too far. But yeah, anything between 475 and 575 and 600 is I'd put a tenner on that.
Yeah, I'd agree with the same actually. It's going to be around the 5% yield mark. I don't think anyone's going to buy this on finance. It's just going to be a SAS pension in particular, because SAS pensions are intergenerational and can benefit from the 50-year horizon. But not a bad find.
Absolutely.
Good spot, Omer.
So for our second deal, we're looking at a property in Plaistow, and this is one of Jay's finds. It's tenancy unknown. So what's all that about?
So what we have here is lot number 12. This is 74 Emma Road in Plaistow, London, E13. It's guide priced at £200,000. 2-bedroom, mid-terrace property. For that area, it's a fairly standard, nice kind of looking road. But the interesting thing with this one is it says in the main description, so the headline of the entire property, where the auctioneers are pointing out some of the best things about the asset, we understand the property is occupied. Now that doesn't say the property is being sold with vacant possession. It doesn't say the property's got an AST, an assured tenancy, a regulated tenancy. It doesn't say anything. The beautiful thing about this is it can mean any number of things. Now, sometimes you see phrases like this when the property is being sold by administrators, LPA receiver types, where they, generally speaking, they haven't got the information, or where they think that the received upon party is technically staying in the property, but they cannot quantify or qualify it.
I mean, sometimes the guy that's being repossessed doesn't want to give that information.
Yeah, and that is a shooting yourself in the foot kind of thing, because you want to, if you know you've already been through that whole receivership process and you're being repossessed, the less information you give them, you create situations like this where you're limiting the value. What you should go is, right, I'm going to get myself out of debt, let me give them everything they need to get me the most money possible.
Yeah.
But the amount of people that hunker down and hunker in and just don't give up, and I can understand why, I get both sides of it. But a situation like this is really strange. I've sold a couple of properties like this whilst working at auction and myself. And normally it's a matter that I've probably bought the property quickly from someone, and they said, look, the tenant's there, but I can't find this, I can't find that, you have to do the deal now or it's not going to happen. And you'd be buying it at like 30% market value, like ridiculous stuff. So you take the punt.
Yeah.
But something like this is actually quite silly, because either the owner or the auctioneer should have just knocked on the door, had a conversation with whoever's in there. Who are you? What tenancy agreement have you got? Because then you can qualify this. At the moment, the value is uncertain because a lot of buy-to-let investors who are thinking maybe this needs a little bit of a tart-up inside, a little light refurbishment to make it lettable. But they know that they're not going to be able to get whoever's in there out easily. You know, either Section 21 or Section 8. I think 21's out the way anyway. But Section 21 or Section 8, they know it's going to be a struggle. They know they're buying something and they don't know whether they're getting any income. But they can't get in there to sparkly and shiny it up. So in this respect, it's a difficult one. Further down in the write-up, it does say, under tenancy, please refer to the legal pack for further information. So
something might come out in the legal pack.
Something might come out in the legal pack. Now, when I looked at the legal pack last, there wasn't anything that pertained to the tenancy. But I will be looking out for that because sometimes it's a really simple thing. And sometimes it's not. And it's not a 50-50. Like 9 times out of 10, it's a very simple matter. They just didn't have the information at the point when it went into the catalogue, which is fine. But every once in a while, it'll be something really horrible. So you have to treat these ones with respect. Oh, wow. So I don't know if this is a good deal. I have no idea. I've not done any due diligence on whether the price is right or what it could be worth. But pointing out this, I think, is more valuable.
I think with tenancy unknown, you got to make the unknowns known, basically. And one of the easiest way to do that is go and knock on the door. Because if you want to get that tenant out, residential tenant, there's all sorts of paperwork that's got to be there. If you don't have the tenancy deposit certificate and all the electric certificates and all of that, you can't even...
And even worse, if it is a regulated tenancy, then you want to know that up front, right? So boots on the ground, knocking on the door. If you can't speak to the current tenant in the property, speak to the neighbours. You know, try and find out as much as you possibly can before.
I mean, towards the back end of last year, we bought something from Savills auction, and it was being sold by a receiver. And they are notorious. You know what you're dealing with when you're dealing with a receiver, but they don't have all the information there. Yeah. So we made some calculated bets or gambles on what we're going to do. Piotr went in there, saw the people, the loveliest people, easy situation. We got the missing AST, we got the missing pages from the commercial document, and all of a sudden it's a bright and sunny day. But if you don't have those conversations before, then you don't know what you're going to get at the end of it. And this is something where someone will go, oh, there's £200,000 for E13. That could be a good deal based on that value, and that's a big but.
Yeah.
It's always nice when the information isn't all there in the catalogue. There's a little bit of extra digging, because that limits the amount of people who are prepared to do that extra digging to find that bargain.
Yeah, absolutely. This creates opportunity for a sophisticated investor, right? And for people that are unsophisticated, they could get burnt. But it's a case of doing your homework, really, isn't it? That's the key.
Well, this is generally the stuff that we would go for, because we know that the pool of investors is reduced. Unless you're dealing with someone who isn't paying attention and just thinks, oh, it's worth 400,000 and pays 350 for it. You can't legislate for those moments. But an asset like this is one that we would, go into full detection mode and try and unravel the secrets around it.
So what do you reckon it's going to go for? I mean, I guess it's hard to say unless we know a bit more about that tendency.
Yeah.
With no internal viewings, no internal pictures, no floor plans, it's lot 12, so they've got confidence in it. But unless something concrete comes into that legal pack before the 10th, I don't know. I don't think it will sell.
You can always get an internal viewing. Just pop around with a crate of beer.
Well, yeah. Then what happens if you open the door to people who don't drink beer? I had an argument with someone. They said, take a bottle of wine. So I took a bottle of wine. The loveliest Islamic family opened the door. There was no way they were taking the wine. So then I moved to chocolates. And then there are people who don't do dairy. Then I went to flowers. And now I just do flowers. Everyone gets a bundle of flowers and we'll try and get through the door.
You just get your cash out.
That's it. Yeah. Here's 20 quid. Let me have a snoop. Yeah. But no, you're quite right. Just because the auctioneers have no access doesn't mean that you as an enterprising investor can't go at a friendly time, Saturday mid-morning, knock on the door and see if you can get your foot in the door. But barring anything positive in the legal pack and the lack of access for the majority, I have a feeling this might not sell.
That'll be interesting.
I think I'm a bit more optimistic than that. I mean, the auction market, our market is very much on fire at the moment. I think some people are not as sophisticated, and I think you may get someone who sees this and does the whole classic homes under the hammer situation, doesn't read the legal pack, and sees an opportunity for perhaps a house which may have a market value of 400 in that area. Yeah. Off the top of my head, I don't know the area particularly well, but may think buying it at 300,000 might be a bargain at 25%, but they may perceive it to be 25% below market value. So I'm gonna say I think we'll go for more. Yeah,
I think it'll sell, but I think it'll probably sell to a local player who's willing to put boots on the ground, get some local knowledge, get some intel that other people don't have. And I don't think it'll have many bidders, and they'll probably think they're getting a bit of a bargain.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'll pop round there tomorrow and we'll see what happens, and I'll feed back. Yeah.
I'll tell you what would be interesting is I would want to find out on the EPC register how big that is.
Yeah.
And then I'll do a comparison with the neighbouring properties, because my gut feeling is that some may have extended the property to include a third bedroom.
Yeah.
So I would want to be seeing what kind of value uplift I can create from just doing a very simple exercise like that.
Yeah.
Good point.
So what do you think of that deal? Let us know in the comments below. Have you dealt with a property with tenants unknown? Let us know in the comments below. Smash that like button. Also subscribe if you haven't already done so. So for our next deal, we're down to the Old Kent Road, where we've got a commercial building, mixed-use building. Now, the Old Kent Road on the Monopoly board is always an attractive property to hold. Everyone lands on there and ends up paying you rent, although they are the lowest on the board. They do, it is worth owning. Let's see whether the Old Kent Road in real life lives up to the Monopoly game. What we've got is a freehold building, so you get the whole goddamn lot. The upper parts are sold off on long leases, but if we have a look at the accommodation schedule, you'll see what we have got. And what we have got is basically a ground floor and basement with first floor as well. And it seems someone has tried to do a little bit of commercial to residential conversion already here, because you can see from the layout that there is actually a flat at the back of the shop. And the shop is very small. The shop is basically 16.72 square meters. That's 100 square foot. And I don't know what's happened here, but I'm not sure whether the developer that's done this has really, maybe they've got into trouble, they ran out of money or whatever. But here's the angle. You see, yes, they've done the commercial to residential conversion, and a lot of people do that, but they don't really know what to do with the commercial property. Now, if you look at that commercial property, it's a pig's ear. On the Old Kent Road, it's a very busy road. There will be demand for small shops, but you can't expect someone to come in and pay rent on a 16 square meter shop and then do it up, put in a brand new shop front and all of that. So I think what the developer should have done was basically put in a brand new shop front, make it very easy for someone to move in, because these sort of 100 square foot shops will go to very small businesses on 3-year leases. They'll rent for good money per square foot, very flexible leases, starter type businesses, but it's a ready to go shop. And I don't think the developer has done that and understands the market for small shops.
And it's the way they've left it, it's scruffy, and it's affecting the value of the rest of the residential. So the flat at the rear is less desirable based on the scruffiness of the shop, and the uppers likewise is the same, right? So if the developer had gone in, put a brand new shop front in, made it all lovely and glossy, it would effectively improve the value of the rest of the residential in the building. So definitely a missed opportunity there.
And 375 in the Old Kent Road, London, you get the whole freehold building.
I mean, there's 2 flats.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a commercial building.
Yeah.
And sooner or later, maybe not in my lifetime, but you're going to get the reversion from the 125-year lease sooner or later. It could be an extra 30, 40k to sweeten the pot. But I think that's really attractive pricing.
Yeah.
But it's not crazy enough for how the building looks. I wouldn't say that they've gone in and been demonstrative with their pricing. I think it's about right. But I think they have missed quite a few opportunities here. I think they may have left the commercial shop a little bit too short, because sometimes even if you put a nail bar in there, that needs to be utility to make that kind of stuff operate. And if you have a look at that flat, because it's over the 2 floors, it's a massive flat for what it is. And the fact that a part of it's underground is going to lose the attractiveness. That first floor flat is going to get you a good return. But you don't want to be left with, as you say, the pig's ear, the dog's dinner, that is that very, very small kind of commercial unit to the front.
Of course, it's useful to find out what exactly is going on that plot of land on the side, because it seems as though that site is cleared, there's works going to commence, and they have basically blocked the building up because they've demolished something, haven't they?
Yeah.
So it's you need to find out what's going up next door.
Absolutely. So check on local planning history would do a massive treat here looking at this. So no advertising opportunity then on the side?
Don't think so. There's a building going to go up there, I think.
Yeah.
But it's the centre of London. I mean, I think it's one of those things where it seems to me the developers got into trouble of some kind, because this needs to be really built out properly. And once the site next door is built or works have started and there's some certainty about what's happening there, I think it'll be an interesting long-term play by a long-term hold buy-to-let investor.
Well, they've not implemented some planning permission by the looks of it as well. So there is planning permission for a part single, part 2-story rear extension. With internal alterations to the lower ground floor to provide a larger commercial unit. So essentially fixing the problem that we had identified. But this all seems kind of like it's half done, and that could be something to do maybe with either liquidity, because that's what normally hits most smaller scale developers. But a lot of what it looks like or it smells like to me is that they know some, just not enough. So there's an execution error situation here. Yeah. And that sounds bad, but it's a cracking opportunity for someone else to come in and go, right, this is a real dog's dinner, how do I turn it into a meal fit for the Queen or something like that? And there's the potential for it. The location gives it that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of due diligence, we're briefly looking over this, right? But if you was going to go to town, you'd look at EPC's planning history and be a detective. And one of the things that I do, if I can't find out information from the auctioneer, is look for little gems. And right here on the screen, you've got a let buy board, which is Acorn Commercial. And a quick phone call to that estate agent and say, can you tell me what you know about this property here on the Old Kent Road that's going to auction? You'll find out that somebody knows something, and hopefully you'll get a little nugget of information that could kind of put the pieces together. So it's a little trick for anyone who's looking to acquire at auction.
So what do we think then? What's this one going to go for, London property?
My gut feeling is it's been guided low to attract a lot of interest. The location being Old Kent Road, it's going to be very popular. And someone will see the opportunity in this with the planning that potentially could be implemented, and there's a value uplift. And one of the residential flats on their own is going to be worth a reasonable amount of money. So I think this will go for, again, way in excess of the guide, and I will say a minimum of 450 that this should sell for on the day.
I think this is going to go to a local player, because a lot of these parades are owned in common ownership, and someone will be looking to add that to their portfolio because it's easy for them to repair all the problems and finish it off and add it to their mix.
I think no one's going to be looking at this on a yield play, because there's so much of it that's vacant, right? And sometimes that's a good point. I think 500 to 525. Really? I'll be quite bullish on this because you've got the potential to execute on further planning, which will help you solve the existing problems as par for the course. And you've got a couple of. I mean, it's got to be at 5 to 525. I quite fancy this one.
So what do you think? Would you buy this one on the Old Kent Road? Let us know in the comments below. That's it for this episode of Auction Watch. Thank you very much, Jay, Howard, Omer Mehmet, and me, Ranjan Bhattacharya, your host. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon for more of these videos. See you guys in the next episode. High streets across the land are changing forever, Basically, there's an oversupply of retail premises. Shops are closing down, more are going to close down in the future. The government know this, and that's why they're introducing a light touch planning system which allows small developers to easily repurpose these buildings to residential use under a light touch planning regime called permitted development. Now, this is going to be the biggest revolution and the biggest change and the biggest opportunity for property investors that I've ever seen. And this is all coming into effect on 1st of August. So you need to know what's happening and what properties to look for to take advantage of these opportunities so that you can get in there and take that first mover advantage. I've got a 90-minute free masterclass to get you ready for August the 1st. Make sure you join me, click the link below. Whether you're a beginner or expert, we'll get you started.